we got that front side camera, and of course it's not quite as good as the other option, but I have a feeling I'd be videotaping like my forehead, or just a small segment of my very large head. So I'm using this instead. First of all, welcome 3D MJers, 3D Muscle Journey followers, supporters, all of you guys, everyone who keeps up with our stuff and follows up on what's happening. I wanted to give you guys a brief run through of what's going on. Again, first of all, I am walking to run a really quick errand, and that's because the car at home is Melissa's cleaning it because she wants to give our friend the false impression. A friend that's visiting us from California in our new home of Colorado, give her the false impression that our car is always this clean, for this thing from the truth. But hey, whatever. So yes, long story short, I don't live in California anymore. We moved to Colorado. Many reasons why. I think just from the simplest way I can put it, I think it's a big shame to, I guess, just live all your life in one spot. And for me, I guess my comfort zone was always California. So I decided, I can't live, and that's one thing I would do when I would venture off to different places, is I would stop and think, can I live in Kansas? And quite often, the answer was like, no, I can't see myself here. Whereas, Colorado had, it just fit me. It was one of the few places that upon visiting Colorado last summer, I was like, you know what, I can do this. And then also in regards to just financially, what makes sense, you have to start thinking about those things when you're an adult. And while I love California, it's an expensive place to live. And even though we were staying afloat, in many ways, you kind of feel like a chump. So partially adventure, partially just made the most sense to come down here. But we're quite happy with our move. And one thing that has hurt a bit is that we've kind of started a good little 3D muscle journey community back in Northern California. So I do kind of miss rolling into the gym, throwing my bag in some random corners. Everyone knows that's Alberto, and I'm working out with 4 or 5 different athletes that, just stop by our gym for the day. That I do kind of miss. And hopefully in a few years here, we will build up something very similar. So that's, I guess, when it comes to the personal side of things, that's what's going on. In regards to training, the good, the bad, well, I will say that even though during my whole pre-contest diet, I am very, very thankful that I was actually able to stay relatively healthy, really productive. It was probably the most effective prep in regards to just everything from training. I was able to keep up with, I was able to improve on a lot of lifts throughout most of the prep. And even then when I did start to kind of, lose some of my top end strength, it really wasn't that bad. And, the same thing when it came to just the bottom line, which during a contest prep is that physique. It definitely had it exceeded my expectations in some way. Of course, it's never enough, but in many ways I was expected to be more disappointed in this, if you will, because that's typically what happens. You diet down, and even though you acknowledge the fact that you have made some improvements, it's still, you're like, I can't wait at a certain point to get back to the grind and start improving. So, it went really well, but I would say something just happened after my prep. It's like things just blew up. I really thought that based on, I was progressing. I started here, I was progressing, and then I kind of regressed to about this level, that I was going to get to start working from here, and then eventually, go to new heights that I've never had the chance to experience from, a training perspective and in regards to just pure progress. But old injury from, way back in the day, In 2008, I basically decided to do that with my SI joint, and I've been kind of, I wouldn't say paying the price, but if I don't keep up with certain things, it can flare up. And then also there's a fine line in regards to how much I can push and even progress sometimes. I think sometimes I have to kind of slow down my progress for the sake of keeping those things healthy. So it had one of my flare-ups, and basically typically the way it would work is that it would happen maybe once a year, maybe sometimes twice a year. So about every 8 months or so is probably how regularly it would happen. And typically just laid off the movements that would would irritate it, and usually in 2 to 3 weeks I was okay and ready to go. This time I kind of tried to work around it a bit too much, and it let me train to some degree, and I think because of that I was continuing to train and using movements that were really slowing down the process. So it ended up turning from a 2 to 3 week affair to this is something that happened last November. Wow, and it's March now, to we're just barely getting over it now. So this is where I'm at now. I am recovering from a boo-boo of sorts. And one thing I'm going to stress as we move forward in my training and document this, and the reason I named it I Want to Be Elite, the title, is because I want to be an elite bodybuilder. I want to be among the best in my sport. Because even though I think to a lot of people out there, they think Alberto Nuñez is just a sensational natural bodybuilder, I think when it comes to like the big picture in that vast ocean that is natural bodybuilding, I think I'm a good natural pro bodybuilder, but I want to be elite. I want to be one of those guys that, when he's potentially showing up to a show, he's a strong candidate to win the whole thing. So this is my journey to trying to become an elite bodybuilder. And along the way, I think one thing that I'm really going to stress is that I think sometimes, especially once you get to a certain level, more than anything, more than being really picky about how you progress, such a big part of how much you cash in, how productive your training is it relates back to staying healthy. So just how quite often I know that, for example, trainers for NFL players, a big part of their job is just making sure these bodies are able to show up every week and be productive on the field. So big theme here, I think, from this point on, especially during the segment. Is just let's focus on staying healthy, because if I stay healthy and I show up, good things happen. So that's where we're at. And anyhow, I'll leave it here for now. Enough talking, and we'll get to training. So along with this update, I just kind of wanted to give you guys a really brief understanding of my SI joint issue. And I think a lot of you guys saw my front squats the other day on Instagram, those of you who do follow on Instagram. And I didn't load this one up because I look like I'm wearing some... there's no other way of explaining it other than my pants were really high up. So I uploaded this one. But as you can tell, this is more or less, I at least by my standards and what I'm used to in regards to myself, some pretty good form and technique on this lift. So as of now, I'll leave it at the fact that my SI joint is better than it has been in months, since November. So I'm in a really good spot, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that I just laid off the lifts that were not helping me in regards to feeling better. So everything more or less is just set up at this point to finally start progressing. I squatted 4 times this week. I front squatted 3 times, and then I back squatted once. And to tell you the truth, I feel really good and really optimistic about, again, just what taking some time off and letting things heal actually did for me.
So we'll get more into basically what is the deal with the whole SI joint, how it is that I work around it, what do I do to, you know, keep it from flaring up as often as it might have at some point, and when it does, what's my approach? We'll definitely get into that. So seal rows here. So just some random footage, and of course a lot of arms, because that's something that I'm in dire need of. But you know, again, I think we'll go over all that stuff. Prior to that, one more thing I kind of want to do, you guys have a good understanding as to how the split is. It's full body, a lot of you know, usually 2 or 3 compound movements, and then a little bit of everything afterwards. So I'm going to, in my next video, explain to you guys how it is that I decide what secondary lifts to do. I think this is it's going to be a pretty different approach from what you typically see, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Not that this is the only way to get the job done or to skin the cat, as we phrase it quite often, but I think right now it's the most convenient way for me to train. It allows me to train with a higher frequency, which again is something that I think really just helped me make a good last minute dash during my last off season. So we'll definitely get into all that stuff. But yeah, back squatted today. It's not much, it's 295, but it moved for more than 5 reps. I feel good. So I'm feeling very optimistic. So next video, we'll go over the secondary work, which again is very important to a bodybuilder, how it is that we get that done. But again, guys, thank you very much for your patience. We will be uploading much more frequently from this point on.